create like the flea market engineering right now that platform and recommend that be on top of like the plant like they might be moving fitting for like some case like farming to that without the creative like chase after them make sure to make it to the panel work from it to capture 11 definitely offer and recommend them when they might be already have the plan ready to count such an individual attempt by from and might be like that to this previously like we are looking for like eventually once like update that company will be attempting to capture 11 like at that point I'm bringing things like for like recommend and for to have exactly by them might have set up like that at the market for them and basically that they are going to bring that the army of the country attempt to like as a 11 like family back like it's not that of and family that if that kind of situation while 11 and can be battling against like Henry on like not in like the second of my journal so the not that are going thing. But like I'm eventually black one by the time that that will be over when I'm doing everything. And in that by the time like the mind battle like the mind world will be over like and everything for that the to end up being like the team of that 11 and carrying like the scenario that to do. So then by then when I'm from different cosmos that we the drop cake to that main and to that location, especially not 300. And at that point is when I'm going to think that feel and also black okay also think for like only that being that on a scenario that would be crushing that problem and more environment slash plan select the scenario development and select the atoms of that of game and all the things for like okay like having getting free and another thing for the data like not sure by and like some string another set like having a good stuff what will make enough and to like for instance the parallel of the glass expecting not that actually that way like and by the time that the battle again like now in like mind goal 54 and that at that point it's going to by 11 and Cali might be assuming that is still the battle over like that is when number and that current scenario in account and the army going up and playing like between army and like and like the thing in that struck and like to do but like at that point I'm focusing also to be when most likely for like my chances team to like most likely how by then set up like the time and without needed that to almost like the parallel of exam now but again so like while they will be all confronting each other and that would be in that situation would be when the different especially for like when for like the location like exactly like pulling point towards like the location as well when definitely I'm looking that the remaining extent of that so it might be also percentage like the parallel for talking class maybe like it is that to like through that remaining instant like for not like that not like found like reaching out and basically doing all of them the entirety of that my can then yeah fix excellent and yeah as well as like from can so in their army into like that is the paper to have like at that point when I'm looking like the active really second half like the sort of battle in that but now to be happy this like this scenario find so on scenario that this is in instead of the yes, so like the United States right now that is the exact structure from within which like calling and that the targets of level now are contracting that exact structure in the abyss location might be in actually like model so small from like all the demo work and all the wine like monsters and all the most demo and all the monsters like they are so small from like the model ultimate model of monster which made out this might be like the amount of all those modules that might be that exact structure, which in fact might be like an inverter. That mother module in like an inverter form might be like that to the like again because we don't can that it might have been after like Henry might have after like 11th century to like some implication that from there like Henry might have met like the mother monster and this thing might have been from like the might have been through Henry most likely taking inspiration from like the design of like the mother monster that like Henry might use that inspiration that like Henry might have created like the shadow or like the mind map might be and that couple by that points like that might have points at the black and white below for like spiral might have been what might have happened the play if I go to the so like remember the emotions for like the other monster to be an actual mind player like physical monster form, fighter like hunter form, and fighter like finger form. Might be that the actual of the game can be quite very like still remember the moment of like the forum battle against like and to take place in like now my world and like the second and like the main of second half of like the forum battle against like and to take place in like the actual real abuse location like right now would be killing and taking away like Mike and 11 and Kelly and also then again towards like Chubby location to like it's not that and definitely at that abuse location battle and all the things for like to be initially 11 and carry another trying to like take on Vietnam. But like I'm like that Vietnam in that just that in the battle in the business in the Vietnam to be far too strong that I'm going to bring like carry dragging 11 down in like the battle to that carry mounting into like matchup to like 11 power uh in like the battle against Vietnam might be that the innovation of that I'm going to has that is from National controlling rank for like while we battle against them to be going on like when like my hunting successfully managing to like kill like all the targets like trapped in that structure and basically like one like the moment like all those like targets of Vietnam will be getting executed like and taken out of the structure like at that point they're down to defend like the structure coming alive and basically the chance person coming alive and basically to like stand up and basically to reveal it like through form visual might be like an actual physical form of that mind player like that and like this might be like the mother so that the dynamic side of the thing. But yeah, at that point and then like at that point I'm going to bring for like my anti in that serious trouble while being confronted by that and mother so not reflecting in personality and like at that point we found the vision for like 11 exactly to say like Cali to land so up to that the mother work like my handle those and basically help the battle in bring down that the person reflected personality and that way like I'm trying that simultaneous that 12 battle so on so the second half of like the program battle to be where like my thing along with like Cali self that planning that into planning against like source monster while on the other side like elements will be gathering that ultimate for battling against that and that we're confident we are making out of for like an eventual law like of the state and of entire army like happening during like the battle against like the giant sword monster spider like what made you a giant spider like so like the scenario that I'm going to during say like the clean of the urine by knowing that like our being like them or like them about can be hence saved by like the so much of which might have almost like or from like the abyss of it through like the wormhole and might have landed through the above through the with the wormhole and might have landed from like the parallel world which might have been what that often might have along with like Joyce in like the different path while searching for will like they will like the power wording like the different path and how come uh had seen that might have been that the eggshell of like Redam and Borgum, which might have ended up in like the pan world sometime and from like the visual getting by the road might be that that could be the case that he might go in the right now. So we'll see that. So the first thing that I'm looking for like theory in this like within like not mind world that's the other first thing that I'm looking for like with like 11 and Cali's team of like them appearing in that bringing down Vietnam and that way like the law like what's happening. But like the not for like the law but now would be happening like still like the planet moving closer towards like the real world is like now that I'm looking for. So that being the biggest shocking twist of like a from fight to like after and like my game then that then like so like I'm not like even after like pregnancy now like I'm living maybe of like a scenario where like the soul monster like the mother of all the monsters like still being able to like use like the targets of like pregnancy to like still move like the others program toward like the real world even with like pregnancy like some positive that I'm like that way like at that point I'm going to bring the situation to be like the being the almost like I think the tower. the radio tower like the value word like not that word so that from the radio tower like a spring for like at that point 11 and Gary and Mike and like then down there from like the very top climb to the very top of the radio tower and from there like them entering through the portals of like the abyss real and basically through the portal some portal on the real like and them entering into like the abyss actually entering into like the abyss real man yeah definitely at that point like them maybe realizing that them seeing that that structure and basically them realizing maybe only at that point that that structure is like the actual true final showdown for Monster. Just like maybe like the confusion out of that like that way that Eleven and Carry and all of them making it there and like basically quickly Mike and team like basically pursuing like the target and basically soon after like they will be given like the targets of like now and getting the targets like falling and also out of like the structure like at that point so like structure coming alive and basically the structure like uh like at that point like Mike and all the like witnessing like the structure actually being the fourth motor in like inverted position and like the structure coming alive and like structure like standing on its feet and like that point of the structure of the like movement world like typically form like spider like giant fine blood. It's like the eventual final showdown scenario and final boss scenario that I'm going to play. And at that point, Mike and 11 and all of them having like the final ultimate task to like bring down like the fourth motor as like the final boss. It's like the responsibility that I'm going to take right now. Is like the PM of the emerging right now is for like the keys like the right now to have by hiding successfully hiding like saying from the gate and it's like the scenario that I'm right. So like I'm going to basically hiding Maxine and the with the like purposefully get letting himself get caught right on the gate and grabbing that all the attention of that kind of shape and stuff meant basically at that point I'm looking that no they like quickly getting up that quickly getting integrated by okay and basically that able to bring that quickly not being able to that prevent ourselves from that giving away like the crucial information of that the current exact whereabouts of like 11 and carrying this like now that so like that way like those things for like not and team only falling for like it's strict and basically like them not finding Maxine and them assuming that because that all alone in that location and they them straight away getting off to like the Farrell what Hawkins uh lab is like now then I'm probably bring another also currently my considering right now is basically while creating like the timer like might have also had like created like a plan B as well might be like that to the case where like the timer might be might have also created like a remote activation as well for like instant activation as method as well for like the timer by creating the timer might be like that was the case especially the correct might have like consider like the possibility of like their plans going not going as expected, like worst case scenario where like her plan is to go as actual expected and basically okay and her team capturing them might get down the line of like the extent like my self opinion and like the worst case scenario. So it's such a case to like intimidate and stop like okay and army on that track like by like telling that like might will activate like the thing the time of thing if lack of change stands against the plan to be along the lines of the like strategy that which I'm talking about eventually might probably using against lack of change and army once that they will be making towards like the parallel work of Islam and will be trying to like take away 11 and 10. This like the now that I'm by then like I'm different like that's like the of that I'm different by then like I'm different for like Mike and feel to have set that successfully like the timer and that we have made it back to that the variable of lab and this week and my team that is making it just in time to that be able to like stop again and obtain the like the generation of like activating like the thing the timer thing if like stop again stands in the way like that I'm making the communication generator. Okay, so like but name that opportunity right now is for like by something and things like up to like right now when we get lucky and basically the near of the tower alone breaking away by like at least and basically by the time that we will be making it to like the remaining of like the tower like I'm totally putting for like the team of like might end up in like the team at like the very top of the tower like quickly jumping into like and climbing on to like the correct and basically like them making it into like successfully making it and climbing on to like and entering like the abyss realm by the time like the tower will be getting destroyed and that tower will be getting destroyed by like the abyss. This like the star that I'm doing right now. Okay, so like the main one that is very important right now is for like something to like happening or think more to like make it towards like tasting time, but like I'm doing for like Jonathan coming through at least in just barely managed to like get up on stages on like the body stage and basically pulling stage up on top of like to the top of like the tower and still that way just barely making it select and surviving with like the scenario that I'm developing thing and another very important. It's like a clean and very important right now for like the talking today that I don't like I'm going for like that and carry so that totally takes advantage of that can like hallucination inducing power to that create like an hallucination of like Henry and basically and showing like all the targets of like Henry of like Vecna Henry transforming a hallucination of like Henry transforming into like some of the Vecna form. This like this narrative that I'm doing like so like Kelly creating such sort hallucination and basically that way tricking like something tricking and like making like the targets all the targets of like Vecna realize that like Henry is like the monster reflective scenario that I'm doing. That way, like I'm like all the started getting there and basically they're all quickly interesting Mackin and I'm don't bring at that point so like Mackin quickly taking all of the targets of like Vietnam to reach that exact wave reflects the scenario that I'm doing and so it's like really necessary and right now so like maybe Vietnam might have recently might have managed to like achieve like carry like hallucination increasing power as well might be like that to get the situation that we might have right. Okay, so like we have the reimbursement right now that country and person might be easily able to like foresee that basically like the plan of like 11 and team might be to like totally take all like Vietnam like target to like the cave and item in like the cave might be along the lines like Henry might have quickly figured might be like that to just the figures in the game of training. So that about the correction different what Henry might have done might have Henry before like it's sitting from like Henry's like mind world might have quickly gone through like 11 memories and like might have figured the current exact whereabouts of like Hopper and like Henry might be even present planning on using Hopper as his like ultimate from card where for like Henry to like return back to like the mind world and basically that way bring Hopper there and basically even if it's from outside the cave lab for like can take to that we can yeah element with like the with like the loss of like with like the possibility of like the loss of that of 500 and that way to we can 11 and basically that way to like bring down 11 in like the value and at that point like bring down Cali along might not be that like half might be along the lines like and maybe and that like bring down 11 and Cali that it won't be that like hard tough to like get all the get back witness target back to make it from negative might be along the lines like Henry's like current plan might be stability might be during so like Henry at present from like the abyss location like after like hitting from like the mind world of like Henry might have straight away like might have target proper and might have taken proper to like or they might have taken proper to like and this might work might be like that with the situation that we might consider it right now. Okay, so like leave a particular prediction right now is for like at the very last second I'm totally putting for like Holly to like push direct into the cave while Holly before she would be able to then get into like the cave as well like after that like before that like Holly gets captured by Wagner for like Henry like change of now that I'm really strange and that way for Holly sacrifice that Holly saving that all the remaining of like the targets saved in that turn keeping the state, getting the state into cave, while audio get captured second is not that of the music and right now. It is like a game of still in one friend like it might be scenes on like Joseph like Oklahoma now but Oklahoma play English like every was popping like Henry at present even to the person might be on the side who be like not like Henry uh, in that even to the like Henry's memories like those memories were like from that back like Henry was young like those memories might have felt so extremely real to that Henry were like in actuality might have been seen from like those like Oklahoma play is like Henry will like play out where like instead like what might happen might have been Henry might have caused stage and this like stage fear and basically might have been made fun of by like the entire perspective now and like Henry might have not been able to like might have felt extremely embarrassed in that situation might have been what might have happened and like Henry might have hit up like play like Henry might have hit himself from like that perspective word in like the cave was to like Henry's home might have been what might have happened like while repeatedly going through like the memories of like how he could have performed in like the uh, Oklahoma play and going through like memories of that and train of preparation of that the memory of like the crowd then the other crowd being in front of like and everything might be like the actuality of like the case that might be there and that sitting only so it's like the main very important right now is for like entry hopefully I want that entry would be entering like the whole next to like the game that at that point I'm going to bring up for like entry want being able to like continue on like the memory like haunting every so much to like the point of like Henry not being able to speak this struggling in front of like the Henry staff and who might be at the corner like situated in that fourth post to like the game might be like that the game but like Henry might be struggling there so like Henry memories might be like the case of Crimson at that point I'm looking for like to take that advantage of that situation of that and to attempt to like bring him down and bring at that point like body giving that absolute courage to like the remaining targets of like Vietnam. And at that point, I'm going to simultaneously or Holly and all the targets of like Henry simultaneously battling like struggling Henry on one side, while will simultaneously will be also battling against like Henry from like the other side and basically the left wing spouse and by tapping into like a high mind is like it's not that about that to be how like I'm going to bring that the loss of like Henry to happen and basically like I'm going to right now for like 11 and Kelly not playing any role at all in like the disease and like the breakdown and like the loss of like Henry is like the scenario that of the two of those things that might be very consumed and that way I'm looking for that Henry of like Vietnam's like extreme underestimation of like his like zone targets like putting together something in like his own downfall is like in the final scenario for like Vietnam like the final scenario that I'm focusing and learning and that the consumer prevention exactly while like the loss of the Henry would be happening like to be exactly the point where like Mike and team to be making to lack the much of in like this look at the future of the demand for area might be like that actual so mother that might be like a case that we will bring to like Mike and team being able to like fully save like Oli and like all the targets like exactly by the time they will out or now Vietnam so like countries like now and like the moment like my country will be getting them out of that what's like at that point still from thing for like what's something like and standing on its feet and basically final actual sort of that scenario against that actual on what might be that actual like so that's so not happening beginning at that point of the scenario for on final scenario that was going to bring in the end of the way. But it's so that kind of leave way at the right now for like limit to that. Rather testing struggle way to that, failing managing to that, making towards lack of and carry in just barely in time. But they must remember still I'm doing like even not being able to do anything at all due to like the effects of like the sound wave, like the scenario that I'm doing. So at that point I'm only putting at the moment that army men of like they would be seeing 11 at that point in front of play that video like probably at that point telling goodbye to that copper and basically has like to be about to like bring down copper in front of like an extremely shock 11 as well as carry who wouldn't be able to ending at that point due to the process to the sound. That the last second is when I'm going to find that Murray Bowman to that come to their rescue. And I'm going to find that through Murray Bowman and like at the spring that all of that it just like the deal the down and like the deal of bringing the movement Murray Bowman to like that after shop of like of and 11 and carry things now that like at that point with that after shop like I'm going to like 11 being absolutely embraced or like either 11 or like over being absolutely embraced with like the shopping lot of like Murray Bowman that like I'm going like proper either proper or like that fair marriage is like bring down like uh of like the mix of like okay that point is like the scenario that way I'm so different for like Murray Bowman not making it and basically through Murray Bowman's sacrifice alone that can bring that of 11 and getting saved. This is like the scenario that I'm going to get it. It is so like at least my Dorian version right now is that usually it might have not seen like the act of like 11 due to like run or like something for like Henry that might have naturally might have created like the don't go to the abyss real might be that actually the police the human frame written like in actually it might have been like the giant spider like might player like not from like the abyss realm itself like that might have initially created like the wormhole and find out sets like the meteor like of it might have been most likely someone case that might have been like even back then might have been like the top of that metal drum might have been like the human and it might have been and it might have been like signed it working for like some state that might have found the lack of electoral world might have been working at the prima premise. So like without making physical contact, like they might have transported like the top to like metal part to what might have been like the space lab and like the science there might have been like studying hard about like the about like the properties of the rock and everything and it might have been like the guy with like the suitcase from like country's memory who might have been most likely a scientist like who might have who is like a good like he might have been working for like a data like who might have been like a data and it might have been that scientist that might have first figured out like the actual things of like properties of like the rock might have which has to like it possibly having that from itself to like consume and take over the human might be along the lines of like the controls and after like experiments like he might have figures might be like activities you want to like he might have been a good person with like good intentions so like he might have decided to he might have seen like the data if like the rock eventually ends up making anyone ends up making the field contact with like someone. So definitely he might have taken the he might have steadily attempted to like take the off from and escape from that because he might have been maybe planning on like basically taking that off to like the to a nearby ocean and basically he might have been maybe hoping that basically by land this person that off to like ocean like basically maybe some absolutely no one might find it might be along the line that we might have it. That way to like prevent like sort of like taking off and it and human might be along the lines of like the intention of like the guy would like who might have been a friend that the guy would like so it might have been definitely might have been so that we have a spring like it might have been by sheer coincidence like it might have been exactly at that point that like while we might have been on the way to like the cave like locate that while we might have been on its way to like the nearby places to like the spot of that land it might have been exactly now but sitting that land like it might have been what might have happened to like Henry considering the mathematics that like you know what the like problem on play like we might have been made fun of by like the inductive sector crowd like what it like the Oklahoma played into that Henry most likely getting the percent freezing on stage might have like stage here might have been what might have happened to me training. Like Henry might have been made fun of and like that might have resulted in like Henry running away from home. Might have been like two nothing like the play might have been what might have happened to me training. And Henry might have done to that survive from the home and basically that way that Henry might have been hiding in that game that location and also trying might have been like the case thinking about like everything that happened with like the play of and everything might have been like the case that we don't really can At that point, might have been when like totally unexpected for like country like this guy who might be decided like with like issue game like might have uh ran through that area, might have crossed out like Henry might have been what had had agreement with him so that at that point like Henry might have maybe assumed that basically what may be present within like associate might be money might be like might have been along the lines of something might have assumed. So like Henry might have been interest attempt to like take that money from him that might have resulted in like Henry like unexpectedly ending up like finding like the top as well as like making that physical contact with like Sarov and like Sarov did not Henry might have been what might have happened to studying mind the maybe due to like the power of like the spider like monster from like the ability like confuse a fraction of even a fraction of that monster power like confused down to the of might be like the because they might have been like the days between of things. So like even using when it's like that guy that kind of that guy or like the kind of like so that might have attempted to like solve like the of using multiple methods and each of which methods might have failed and at that point might have been when the might have came down to the decision to like this was to hide the rock from everyone by disposing it off. I'd like to see